Um, Hello, this is week two follow up. Running a little late. My schedule for this week was kind of tight, but we continue on. This follow up is basically a HTML delivery of all of the components that I've chosen in my library. To go moving forward, the first component that I chose um, that I worked on was the detail header, which was the design Weibo Design Studio. If we take and go look at what I did, I started out with basically I put most of my stuff in a section because they are sections of a web page. This section is, like I said, the detail header part section of a web page, and it includes the navigation, which I use the navigation semantic that signifies the different areas that you can go to on the web page. From there, I went into the H1, um, which is basically the title or the name of the web page or the company. Um, Afterwards, I used a paragraph um, to basically say what the company does, or it's another part of the name of the company, and it details what the company pretty much do. Um, it also had a little logo circle beside the name. I then decided to use a div to divide where a paragraph stating about the services that the company does, um, and that div that states that the services ends my actual detail header. So that completes this section. Now moving along, if we go to the next component is the blog. Um, what I did there was, again, I went into using a section because the section it sections off a blog that may be in an area of a web page. I use a H2, which basically it um, it's the title of the actual section. So it's not like the main title. So I didn't use the H1. I used the H2 basically because it is a title, but it's like just the title of the section here. To continue on, I end up using a div because there were sections in here that were divided somewhat, like the date section and then the blog title and the reading under the blog title and so forth and so on. So I did use a div for the date, the day and the month. Then I go in and I use H3 to basically use as the title of the particular blog that it's being posted or being read. Then I have a paragraph of the actual blog that's being read. The next thing I did, I use an article because it does have where the next section is basically a comment for towards the post. So an article was used, um, and in that article I use another div to display the date and the month, to divide the date and the month, and also it goes into the H3 header again of the actual um, area of the blog, which is the like I said the article that I use, which breaks down for where there's what the client has to say, or if a person has to say something about a particular blog. Um, so that's why I use the H3 to as a title. Then the actual paragraph of the blog that is being, the statement is being made towards the blog that um, was being read. Under that, I went into another div, which basically breaks down and gives the image of the actual where it divides like the sections of the different people. It's the different people being able to. It has different areas where different people have made comments towards particular blogs, and then it goes into um, the div to where it gives a picture of the person who's speaking towards the blog, and I used an aside to display that. Give me a second. I've kind of right here. Instead of I wasn't complete. I kind of was going a little bit further, a little bit faster than I should have been. But I use an aside for this particular section, which is the section that says what the customer or the client has to say about that particular blog. Because it's in the same article, but it's in a side section where it has like a blog post or reply to a blog, and then it has the images of whoever the person is speaking towards the blog, and that completes my div and my side in that section. The next one I went into was an about team section, which is basically a section that it gives description of maybe the different people that are on the team or working with a particular company. That also gives it an area where you can go in and connect with these people and get information about whatever the company is, that particular company. If we go and look at that, I started out with a section, of course, and because this is a section of a web page, I started with H1, which I possibly could have used a different one, H2 or something, because it is just the H. It's the title of that section, so I could have used the H1 to signify that section's title. I continue on and I use a div to basically break down like a navigation area where you can scroll through to the different people who work at that particular company. I continued on with putting a div where it has the images and the name and the title of the person and a description of the person who basically, this is the first person, so I did it for each person, and it breaks down all the information about that person and gives all of the basic contact ways you can contact that person, like in which I took and I used those in unlisted order, which I use that in unlisted order with Facebook, Twitter, Google, LinkedIn, and email IDs or whatever. What I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to take and use CSS to design the actual logos for these particular URLs that I use. And like I said, I'd use that for each person. So the second person, I did the same thing. I used a div to divide them up, some image to show the image of the person, and each name I put in an H4, and then I went in and put the title and other person in paragraph format and the actual description of the person in the UL for the actual contact preferences or whatever. And basically that ended from the last person, it ended my div and section once I finished completing that contact information for the last person. The next next component that I did was a contact area of a page, and as you can see, it's pretty simple here. I think I took and with this one, I also use this as a section because it would be a section of a page. So I use a section, put everything in a section. I use the H1 to signify the title or the logo of the actual area that will be used in this particular component. Then I put it under a div with a class to signify each area of the actual contact area, because you have sub areas like newsletter, latest tweets, contact us, and a follow us section. So I use divs to break that down, and then I use the H3 to signify the names of each area. And then under that, there were either paragraphs or such that was explaining what the different things you can do, or like the newsletter area, it was telling you to if you keep up with their always evolving product and features, you can do that with sign up with their newsletter. So I use that in a paragraph format, and wish that was in a div still. Then I use a form to complete the actual area where you would enter the email, and then a button to press to submit once you've finished the actual entrance of the email address. Then I go into a div for the tweets, which you get the latest tweets. I use the H3 for the actual title of that area. I gave images of an image of different tweets and dates that were tweeted, that those different things were tweeted, and the time and everything. So I use a paragraph format, and then I put the image in there of the actual thing, the actual bird, which is the actual representative of a particular of a tweet. So it kind of breaks up where different tweets were being made, and then it has the different tweets that were made and the date and the time. I put that in a div. Then the next div came with where it says contact us, and basically with that, it gave an image of a map of with the address. You can look up the address, and an image of a phone, and then I had the phone number, image of email or mail, so you can see where you can enter your email address and make contact them through email. Then the last area was the follow us area. I used the H3 as the signifier for the name of the actual section, and I used the UL, unlisted items, to basically represent the different actual clickable targets, such as Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, where you can actually click on those and go straight to their Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn to contact them or follow them as well. That div in that section and the ULs and stuff ended this actual component. My next component was like a login registration type component. The login registration component section, I started off by basically in my HTML I got some links to some JavaScript stuff, because I'm going to use some JavaScript stuff to help with the design of the actual component. But I put that in a section too, because this is a section of a web page again. Then I broke it up into a div, because there were different areas of that actual component. As you can see, a component, you have the header basically, then you have a area for check-in, an area for checkout, and the number of adults and kids. Then you have a login and reservation area. So I put them all in divs that way to divide them up. And then I did a label semantic for the actual check-in, the actual checkout, the adults and the kids section of the actual component. I did a div for the date picker. I'm going to use some JS to work to basically do the calendar that you see here in the component. So I did put the HTML. This is basically simple date picker type HTML. So all I gotta do is add the JS to it. Moving forward, again, you see the date picker for the next section as well. Then I go down to where it starts with the adult section and the kids section. I use an input basically to put in, have it so you'll be able to input how many people that are going to be, how many adults or how many kids are going to be on this particular component, which is a trip to a luxury vacation of sorts. I did that with the kids as well. Then I came down and had a div just for the submit area, which has the login where you can log in, and also where you can have the actual reserve now button if you just want to reserve it and not log in or whatever. All that has been put into a form starting above before you start with the check-in. It's a form, so I complete that section with the form, and that completes this actual component. The next component was footer. This footer, as you can see, has a map area with a date. With the address, and you can get the mailing. That's for the mail, or for finding where the actual location is. In this section, you'll see that there's also some different things you can go to within the website, and then it follows out with a copyright date and the actual company logo. I ended up going with this. I use this as a section again because it is a section of a web page. I took and started off with a figure, an image of a marker of showing like the actual mark of where the actual address of the company is. So I used start with a figure, and then I came with the paragraph, which is the address of the actual company. And it came again with another figure that falls behind it, which gives a not just a marker, it gives the actual address map or whatever, a map icons of sorts, to signify that this is where the address is as a mailing address. Then what I ended up doing, I ended up using an article to basically put each section or each area of this footer is an article. It has an area where there are things taking place here where that's basically part of the same within an article. I started with and I put within the article, I put these items within a unordered list, basically, and you'll see I got for the news events, special promotions, and the newsletter. Then I go to the next area where I use an article as well, which basically is the menu area for network solutions, support forum, and a database management area. And the last one I used the article for was basically a media section. I used a UL for that, unordered list for that as well. And basically it's a media section for Facebook, Google, RSS feeds, Pinterest, and LinkedIn. Then I used the article to put in the logo of the company and the copyright information, and that article ends out the actual component. The next is an image gallery. In this image gallery, basically you'll see its basic setup is you got the title, you got all your images, you got a navigation area for the particular sections that you may be able to find pictures on. with that being said, moving right along, what I did is, again, I use a section because it is a section of a web page. It's not the entire web page. It's a section of it. And in this section, it has a title, which I use H1 for, which is photos. Under photos, I then go into a navigation area where I developed, and I use a UL to basically start off with the structure of the navigation area. And that area entails having racers, riders, and teams that you can look up the different images. And then I use a figure semantic that basically goes in. You got all the images that are in your gallery listed under this one, particular section of the figure semantic. I ended off by putting a button, a div which basically goes in and put a button that you can press to see all of the photos at once. And that would end my section on that particular component. Moving right along, I did this one here was a pretty tough one. It was I ended up choosing this. I think I kind of chose a lot of quite a few of them that were kind of tough and took a little bit extra time to complete. But I didn't want to choose anything just to be choosing just to get the job done. I wanted to choose something that would give me a sort of a difficult task. That way I could grow at it and be able to do it and not have it and just be doing something that I already know I could do. So it gave me a little bit of a task here, but it's something I liked and wanted to see if I could do, and that's the carousels. I wanted to see how I could, do this carousel area here, and so that's why I chose this. But it was a difficult task. But anyway, I think it went pretty well. But going forward to look at what I did here, what I ended up starting off again with a section because it is a section of a web page. It's not the web page. I end up doing divs to break down different areas of the web page, and that's why I use a div. And I started with the first slider, and the first slider has an image that is basically a background image. Then it goes into like an animated header where you get an image that eases in, and then you get the title of which I use the H1 that eases in, and then an H3 basically is a follow-up description of what comes with this company or bike club or whatever. All this stuff here ends up like easing in, so I'll be using CSS and JavaScript possibly to get this stuff to react as it should react. I end up using a button. As you can see, it has a button here that says try the different classes, so it ends with a button in that div. Then the next div is for slider number 2. That gives a background image, so I put that in a div as well. Starting off, we got a background image for the div. The first div in the slider 2 is an image of the background. Then it goes into some more animated. The next div goes into some animated headers and stuff with some different pictures that basically eases in, and it's animated, so it eases in along with the header, basically a small header for that particular slider, and then it has a small header that comes in, then the main header comes in within that animation. The last div that has the last slider, I should say, not necessarily the last div, but the last slider comes in the same way with a background image. Then it comes in with another div that has some animated stuff that's going to take place, like an H3 header and an H2 header and an H1 header and another H3 header. That you'll get some different features and things with the typography that'll take place within this animation. The last two divs basically is a previous and a next, or next and a previous area button. I don't want to say a button because it's not really a button. What navigation you'll see here on the ends here. I completed those with divs. which those things will be done through CSS and possibly JavaScript. So those divs in the actual section and the actual component. Next component is a modal. And modals, this one was a little bit different from what I've done before, but you know, I thought I would do it and see how, if it was something that I could do without, you know, difficulty, in case, you know, there's a different way I wanted to design a modal in the future. So I chose that. I started it off. I didn't use a section in this one. I used a division, a div, which was a divided section, because basically a modal is already a part of a section. It's just that you have to click on a certain thing within a section that would basically get this modal to react or to activate or open or whatever. So I start off with a div, which is the modal, basically the modal background, which will be designed in CS. The next div is basically head, the modal header. It basically gives a close button, which is an X, where you can close out of the modal once you're done. Then it goes into an H4, which it gives a title or of the actual modal, where and what it's all about, where it comes from, what of the company or whatever, sign up, log in, and forget password by that particular company, which is pop up. And next, I use another div, which takes in it divides and gives up the area where the body is created, and in the body I put everything in a unordered list in order to create tabs within that modal that would be for sign up, sign in, sign up, and forgot password. Then I went into developing a form area, which basically within that form area, I use divs as well to divide the different areas up in the form that lists for the user to basically sign in or whatever. And the first div is just a image of a picture of like a user, and then it goes into an input, which basically gives you an area where you can input your email or whatever. The next div gives up a image as well. This image basically is a lock that lets you know and represents that you're putting your password in and you're secure, so you don't have to worry about anything with your input. Yeah, and next is the input for the actual password. Lets you be able to place your password in there. And then of course the next under that is a button where you can press basically to submit or whatever for the modal, to whether you put your name and your password or whatever email in, then you can submit or log in. And then last but not least was the actual footer for the actual modal. And basically at that I put some images down there right beside forget password, and then I did a div with an image that's for sign up. And basically it's just an area where you can click on and go to if you forgot your password, and then if you want to just sign up within the modal. Besides that sign in area, this one is for signing up. And basically those divs in the form ends the actual component. The last component is basically a CTA. This component was just straight out, simple and plain. You get to go in and for a particular site and sign up for their newsletter. It gives you a header which says newsletter sign up, then a paragraph that basically says fill in this form, we will call you back. Then it gives you an area where you can put your email address in and hit the submit button. So within my HTML, you'll see what I started off with the section again, because this actual CTA is a part of a web page, it's a section of a web page. So It began inside the section with a H1, which is the title of the actual component. Then a paragraph that basically says, fill in this form. We will call you back. Next, I did a div, which is a div of the line separator. As you can see, it does have a line separator within the actual component, and so I'll be filling it in with CSS, or designing it with CSS. Then I go in with a form. This form basically is just a one simple basic input, which is for your email. Then it has a submit button, so I have a button there, and close out that form, and it ends this section and ends this component. This has been a really interesting week, and designing these actual tools um, were a learning experience, and gave me some insights on some different things. Um, so I've enjoyed it. Hopefully this coming week could be just as good, and continue to help build on what I have here. Thank you guys for coming by. I appreciate it, and hope to see you soon.